Warriors of price action and guardians of fundamentals, welcome to Retail Recon. On today's mission, we're breaking down one of the most popular beginner-friendly income strategies in options trading, the poor man's covered call, PMCC. If you've ever wanted to sell covered calls on an expensive stock like Microsoft, but couldn't afford or wouldn't want to buy 100 shares, this strategy gives you a different path to enter the battlefield. It's leaner, it uses less capital, and when used correctly, it can still generate steady premium. But like every strategy, it has its own risks and you need to understand them before you pull the trigger. Today's objective: understand what a poor man's covered call is, how it works, when to use it, and what traps you need to avoid. Let's start with the basics. A PMCC is a strategy where you buy a long-dated call option instead of buying 100 shares of stock, and then you sell a shorter dated call option against that long call. Think of it like this. Instead of deploying a full division, you're sending in a platoon. You still want exposure to the stock going up, and you still want to collect the premium along the way, but you're doing it with far less capital. A traditional covered call requires you to own 100 shares of stock. That can be expensive. If the stock is trading at 400, you need 40,000 just to control one lot. With a PMCC, you might buy a deep in-the-money call that costs a fraction of that amount. Structure itself is simple. Buy a long-dated call, usually deep in the money, sell a shorter-dated call against it, collect premium from the short call, let time and stock movement work in your favor. That's the concept. Now let's walk through why this works. A poor man's covered call is built on the same general idea as a traditional covered call. You want the stock to stay flat or move up slowly so the call you sold loses value over time. The long call acts like your synthetic stock position. Because it is deep in the money and has a long expiration, it tends to behave more like owning shares but with less capital tied up. That also means you will participate on the upside as well if the stock makes considerable gains. The short call is your income weapon. Every time you sell that shorter dated call, you collect premium. If the stock stays below the strike price of that short call by expiration, that option expires worthless and you keep the premium. Why traders use it? The poor man's covered call is appealing because it lowers the capital requirement compared with the standard covered call. That makes it useful when you want income from a stock but do not want to buy 100 shares. You are bullish but not aggressively bullish. You want a strategy that can benefit from time decay, and you want a more capital efficient way to express a stock thesis. For low capital accounts, that last point matters a lot. This strategy gives you a way to participate in a stock with less money on the line. That doesn't make it risk-free. It just makes it more efficient. The key idea is that you are not trying to hit a home run. You are trying to create a repeatable income setup where the stock movement and time decay both work in your favor. Now let's get into the battlefield details. First, the long call should usually be deep in the money and have plenty of time left. Why? Because if it's too short dated, it starts acting too much like a lottery ticket. You want something that behaves more like stock and less like a race against the clock. Personally, I use PMCC very often. When looking for a call, I will look for calls that have at least 10 months to expiration, a delta of 80 and above, and at least 80% of intrinsic value. I will go through the mechanics and rules of engagement in detail in one of the future videos where I will start breaking down my trading rules. Second, the short call should usually be sold with a strike above the long call strike and ideally in a range where you are comfortable with rolling the position if needed. Personally, I will be looking for a short call with expiration of 30 days or longer to limit gamma exposure and with delta of 20 or below. You don't want high delta and high gamma calls, as one big move in the wrong direction and you can be in the world of pain. Never forget, you don't own the stock, and getting a sign on the short call has to be avoided at all costs. Third, this is a strategy that works best when the stock is expected to move slowly upward, sideways, or remain range bound. If the stock explodes upward very fast, you can still make money, but you may need to manage the short call actively. If the stock crashes, your long call will lose value and the whole position can deteriorate quickly. That brings us to the most important battlefield rule. This is not a set it and forget it strategy. You need to watch the long call, the short call, and the stock itself. If the short call gets too close to the money, you may need to roll it. If the stock falls too hard, you need to assess whether the long call still makes sense. And here is the simple rule of thumb. If you would not feel comfortable buying the stock outright, do not use PMCC as an excuse to take a bad trade. The structure changes the capital requirement, not the quality of the underlying idea. Let's go through some common mistakes. 1. Buying a long call that is too short dated. That turns the position into a time bomb. You want enough runway for the trade to work. 2. Choosing a long call that is too far out of the money. That makes the position too speculative and less reliable. A deep in the money long call is usually the more stable base. 3. Selling a short call too aggressively. If you sell a strike that is too close to the current price, you may cap your upside too early and create too much management pressure. 4. Treating the position like free money. It's not. The short call can move against you. The stock can fall. The long call can decay. You still need a thesis and a plan. This strategy is powerful, but only if you respect the setup. Let's wrap the mission in one clean debrief. The poor man's covered call is a capital efficient income strategy where you buy a long dated call and sell a shorter dated call against it. It mimics the logic of a covered call but with less money tied up. Used correctly, it can help you collect premium, control capital, and stay exposed to upside in a stock you believe in. But it only works when you choose the right strikes, respect time decay, and manage the short call with discipline. Core takeaway: the poor man's covered call is not a shortcut to easy money. It is a leaner deployment method for traders who want income, upside exposure, and better capital efficiency. And with that, we close today's mission. If you found value in this debrief, lock in your support by liking, subscribing, and following our movement. Thanks for standing watch with me today, and until next time, trade smart, risk sharp, stay on target.